All righty, it is now 6:30 p.m. Good evening, and welcome to the Ascension Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated's second annual Author Spotlight event entitled Celebrating Black Authors. Buckle your seatbelts because we have a powerful program in store for you all this evening. For your information, all questions will be acknowledged and answered during the Q&A segment of tonight's program. I am Tiffany Treadway, Subcommittee Chair for Black Authors for the Arts and Letters Committee of the Ascension Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, and Southwest Regional Lead Journalist, serving the great states of Louisiana, Texas, Arkansas, New Mexico, and the beautiful country of Jamaica. Celebrating Black Authors is a virtual event intended to commemorate 1 to 3 authors within our illustrious sorority, raising awareness to the author's existence and writing. We aim to celebrate their work and contribution to Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated and our society. The Arts and Letters Commission. The ultimate goal of the National Commission of Arts and Letters has been to boldly advance the Black experience, highlighting the artistic contributions of African American people of the past and present, and elevating them to public attention with particular emphasis on the positive roles of Black women. The Ascension Alumni Arts and Letters Committee, our purpose is to communicate, preserve, and promote all forms of arts that best highlights the Black experience through liberation and celebration. Our mission is to simply promote awareness of various art forms through hosting, partnering, and facilitating programming that fosters cultural awareness, enrichment, and creativity. Author Spotlight. The National Arts and Letters Commission encourages chapters to host an Author Spotlight event as a way to expose and bring awareness to the talent within our sisterhood. The Author Spotlight highlights the author's work and supports the author's success as a supplement to the infamous Delta's Authors on Tour. Without further delay, it is time to hear from the authors as they will read an excerpt from their published work. Our first author is Tracy J. Cass. Tracy J. Cass is a native of Fort Worth, Texas. She is a veteran educator and an active member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Her professional writing career began in 2005, and she has self-published 2 novels, Labor of Love in 2005, and All That Matters just last year, 2022. She loves reading, traveling, and working out. You can visit her website at www.tracyjcass.com or follow her social media platforms, Instagram at Tracy J. Cass and Facebook, author Tracy J. Cass. You can also listen to her podcast, Everybody's Home Girl, on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Without further ado, ladies, gentlemen, Tracy J. Cass.
Thank you for such a beautiful introduction. Thank you for having me. I appreciate being here. I guess before I read my excerpt, I would like to give you a backstory about the book so you can understand where I'm coming from, the part that I'm reading. The story is about, it's actually a sequel, and it's the love story of Jaslyn and Samson. And in the first book, they kind of, they have some problems that they have to work out in book 2. So it's a second chance romance novel with a little comedy, little sex, little romance, R&B. And I wrote the story because I wanted people to understand that love is possible even when it's complicated. Sometimes it's not easy, but if you put in the work, it's very much well worth it. And it doesn't always look cookie cutter. I love romance novels, but sometimes they're very formulaic. But I like a little drama in my stories. So in this particular portion that I'm going to read, Jaslyn and Samson have reconnected. And of course, they have this amazing, well, I'm not going to say amazing. they end up having sex with each other. So this is an opportunity for you to see, what happens as a result of that and how she's feeling in that moment. Both characters are in their early 30s. So keep that in mind as I read this portion of the book. But I think it's a good opportunity for you to see where her mind is and where the story might go. So the chapter is titled Decisions, Decisions. Hello, hello, where are you? Is there anyone there? That's me throwing a search party for my period. The last time I had sex had been about a month ago, and we all know who was with. Lord Jesus, I cannot be pregnant. I prayed. I was hoping against all hope that my life as I knew it was not about to end, but I needed to be sure. I was nervous and scared. What is it about babies that makes you want to kill yourself? Well, it wasn't that bad, but it was pretty close. I didn't want to be alone. I couldn't think clearly, and I desperately wanted someone to hold my hand to face what seemed like the death sentence. I thought of my sisters, Carol, Francine, and Melissa. I couldn't call them. They all had families and were pretty busy. I was sure they would come, but I really didn't want my family to know what was going on until I had my head together. They would surely tell my mother, who would then begin asking questions about the father, and I certainly wasn't ready to answer any questions about my relationship with Sam. I thought of Lisa and Shelley. Lisa and Shelley and I had grown up. Lisa and I had grown up together. She lived across the street from me, and we were practically family. We met Shelley when we all attended college together in Arlington. Shelley was my roommate, and she quickly became a part of the Davenport family too. I could trust both of them to stand by me during my crisis, since they had been there for me during all of the other life-altering events, catching my college boyfriend, sleeping with a man, bailing me out of jail when I vandalized his car, my relationship with a married man, watching Samson cheat on me with his ex-girlfriend. I decided to call Shelley because Lisa had started her job as a lead producer for the newest hip hop station in the area. And it was her dream job, and I didn't want to impose. Besides, Shelley was the perfect choice because she kept a stash of pregnancy tests for emergencies such as this one. I dialed her cell phone. She answered, "What's up?" I lost it. Unable to prevent the sobs of anguish waiting to erupt, I started crying. "What's up, girl? What is wrong with you?" I continued to cry. She let me shed a few more tears, and finally she asked, "Are you done?" Her tolerance for crime and weakness were pretty low. She let you get a few tears out, but then she was back to the business of solving the problem. I sighed. Yes, good. Now let's handle this situation. First, you need to calm down. Then you need to tell me what's wrong and stop crying. Nobody hit you, so there's no need to cry. Or did they? Let me know and I'll get my gun. Shelley was a card carrying member of the NRA and was extremely proud of her concealed handgun license and her 40 caliber Beretta. She continued, "You know I don't mind busting a cap or shooting a brother." I laughed, knowing that she was serious. I gained strength from the laughter and discovered the courage to finally say, "I think I'm pregnant." That was homegirl code for bring your butt and your test over here right now. I'll be over there in 10 minutes. Dang, I just might have to shoot somebody, she yelled before hanging up. Shelley arrived with the necessary equipment, and sure enough, the dot turned blue. I looked at my friend who seemed as disoriented as I was. I could tell by her expression that she wanted to comfort me, but didn't know what to say. I started crying again, but instead of hysterical sobs from before, I let the tears roll down my cheeks as I sat silently contemplating my next decision, my next choice. Choice, pro-choice. I knew exactly what I wanted to do. Shelley sat next to me on the bed, patting my back for comfort. "What are you going to do?" "Call the clinic." That was homegirl code for "I'm not having no damn baby." That's my story. That's part of it. And so, you get to read and see if she actually makes that decision or if she actually makes another choice and how that impacts their relationship.
Thank you so very much to Soror Cass for leaving us on the edge of our seats in anticipation and reminding us that love is possible even when it's complicated. This next powerhouse of a writer is Miss Cassandra E. Berkeley. Miss Berkeley is a graduate of Baylor University, where she received her Bachelor of Arts degree in psychology and speech communications. She also received her Master of Divinity at George W. Truett Seminary and a Master of Social Work from Baylor. She is a published author, playwright, pastor, poet, international speaker, and licensed clinical social worker. She currently works in the medical field of social work. She is offering medical and mental health services to children with special needs, along with running her own mental health private practice. While being a devoted mother to her beautiful daughter, she still finds the time to serve her community. Mrs. Berkeley is a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, where she serves as the Southwest Region in Texas, New Mexico State Chaplains Council, Crime Survivors of Safety and Justice, Sienna Board of Directors Village Representative, and a plethora of other organizations. Ms. Berkeley loves writing plays and has produced and starred in several plays and is the author of 2 books. Without further ado, let's give a great big virtual round of applause for Cassandra E. Berkeley.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all so much for this opportunity. I too will give a little bit of backstory. So Case Closed is a true story, as you can see there on the screen, a true story of justice, forgiveness, and healing. It is my story of being sexually assaulted, raped in high school at the age of 16. Someone broke into my home while my mom was away. And it was a stranger, and I was raped by this stranger. The caveat to this story and the background of the story is I tell the story of how I went through the process of healing. But the biggest component of this book, Case Closed, is that my rape kit actually sat in a room of rape kits, thousands of rape kits for over 10 years untested. There is a significant epidemic, if you will, of rape kits across the country, police departments that do not have really good systems in place to ensure that these rape kits are getting tested. And so mine was one of them back in 1995. Things have gotten a lot better since then. So I got a call 15 years after my rape. So 1995 happened. I kind of just moved on with life. Got a random call 15 years later from the Houston Police Department telling me that my rape kit was finally tested and it came back with a match. That match, he ended up being in jail already for another rape. And so that led to my open case from 1995 being closed. So the story Case Closed, or the book Case Closed, is just about my life story growing up in a single parent home, overcoming poverty, as well as healing from this high school rape. So the excerpt that I'm going to read is from the chapter entitled Out of My Control. And it starts in the section reviewing, starting kind of with my teenage years. And it says, during my adolescent years, life was easier as we moved less frequently. However, financial matters were still challenging. There was only enough money to ensure the bills were paid, and we had the basic necessities of life. My mother often reminded me and my sister that when we were old enough, we would have to start working. This was a thrill for me. I could not wait until I turned 16. That day finally came and I began filling out job applications. I knew with a job, I would not have to feel guilty about asking my mother to give me money for things a normal high school student would enjoy. I knew that in order to experience normalcy in high school, I would need to get a job to provide for the luxuries like going out with friends, purchasing new clothes and shoes, and just being a part of extracurricular activities. My first job was at Astroworld, a theme park in Houston that no longer exists. I loved working there. Although I was 16 at the time, I still considered myself a big kid. Whenever I was off work, I spent my time on the rides and hanging out with new friends. I was promoted to lead supervisor at Astroworld within my first 6 to 12 months. While working there, I met my quote unquote first love. The thing that I loved so much about him was he accepted me for me. He never judged me, never put pressure on me to have sex. He never degraded or devalued me. And even when he was upset, he always showed me kindness. He saw the best in me when others around me focused on what was wrong with me rather than what was right. He was amazing, caring, friendly, kind, had a beautiful smile, and might I add, he was fine. We were inseparable. Even though our relationship school and work were all going well, I felt like something was missing. I always had a yearning to be a part of what I considered a whole family: father, mother, children, and yeah, a dog. I did not come to realize until after meeting him that there was a void in my life that I subconsciously longed to fill. I remember meeting his parents and brothers for the first time. I fell in love with them. No one could tell me that this was not my family. His parents treated me like their own child. This gave me a sense of hope, a sense of comfort. It was a feeling that I had never felt before. It was a feeling I never wanted to lose. We attended different schools, and eventually this caused a strain on our relationship, and the relationship ended. But we remained in contact for a long time. I came to realize later in life that I began to create unhealthy attachments to other people's families to fill a void that I didn't know that I had regarding my father not being in the home. Although my love and care for them was genuine, subconsciously, I wished that I had the same thing in my own home. I longed to come home to a loving mother and dad, waiting to welcome me home with loving arms, but that was not the case. I accepted that this was not my reality, and I could wallow in my pity of not having a fantasy family like I saw on television, like the Cosbys, the Winslows from Family Matters, or I could accept what I was born into. I could see not having a father in the home as a roadblock, or I could see it as a stepping stone to greatness. I decided to see it as a stepping stone. I decided to trust that God's plan was better than any plan I could create, and accept that being raised by a single mother was just a part of my journey. At a very young age, I learned the significance of praying to God and basic Christian principles. I participated in Bible sword drills, church speeches. Though my relationship with Christ would blossom much later in life, I always felt a connection to God. I always knew that God was watching out for me and my family. I can remember the old sayings I would hear my mother and my grandmother say: "It will get better by and by, and the Lord will make a way out of no way. And Lord, have mercy." After hearing these statements so often, it became a part of me to just know that I could call on God when I needed him. It worked for my mother, it worked for my grandmother. Surely it would work for me. My mother did the best she could with what she had. She was indeed the spiritual strength in our family. I can only recall my mother crying once, but I recall her praying and reading her Bible every night before she went to bed. She always showed strength and determination. She always encouraged my sister and I to study, work hard, and remain active and be independent. Each night, I followed my mother's example and said my prayers before I went to bed. I prayed that God would protect our family and bless my mother. I trusted and believed that everything would be okay. I never doubted God heard my prayer for protection until one morning at age 16, my prayer for help went unanswered.
Wow, thank you so very much, Sora Berkeley, for sharing that story of out of my control and seeking justice. But we all can be assured that when things are out of control in this life, that God is in control. It takes such courage and grace to share such a powerful story and testimony when it comes to raising awareness to these cases when there are delays in cases of rape and assault. So we appreciate you this evening, and we appreciate your story. At this time, we will have a segment of the program entitled Ask the Authors. So our authors, before addressing questions from our audience, we would like to invite you to answer questions developed by our Arts and Letters Committee. These questions are geared toward gaining insight to what it took for you to become an author. There are a total of 3 questions for the both of you. Sora Cass, you will be asked initially per our order of introduction, and Sora Berkeley, you will follow. Question number 1, Sora Cass, and this is a 2-part question. Take us back in time for a moment. What inspired you to write your book, and what did you expect readers to gain from it?
I would say, again, what inspired me to write my book was, first of all, my friends. At the time with the first book, I had 2 friends. They were in a relationship, and they would always come to me separately. The guy would come and she would come, and they would tell me, and I was like, y'all both want the same things. Y'all are just going about them differently. And so that inspired the first book, where I wanted to show the background. So the first story, you get to see the relationships that they have before they meet each other and how that impacts them once they come together. And so then the second book, I wanted to see, how can you make a relationship work when you think that it's over, but you know you love this person? What work it takes to come together and compromise and communicate so that you know that you have something to build on. So that inspired me. Love always inspires me in some form or fashion. So I wanted to write a story that my friends could relate to. And what was the second part?
The second part of the question is, what did you expect readers to gain from it?
I expected, one, for them to have some hope. You know, we have so much, especially back, you know, when I was writing mid 2000s, so much negativity around Black relationships. I wanted them to be inspired and say, you know what, we have the opportunity and the chance to love just like everybody else. And we should read it on the page just like everybody else. A lot of times, especially growing up as a kid and in college, you go to bookstores and a lot of the romance novels were, you know, non-Black people. We didn't see us on the page. And it started to gain more, but I really wanted to write a story about women in the South, people from Texas, you know, with the Southern accent. I wanted to highlight my city. And so I expect for them to be inspired, have hope about love, and to be entertained. As you can see, I like a little drama, but I like comedy, but I like to be authentic and genuine. And so I want them to go away feeling that they enjoyed the book, but they also could relate to it.
Thank you so much, Ms. Cass. Ms. Berkeley, same question, 2-part question. Take us back in time for a moment. What inspired you to write your book, and what did you expect readers to gain from it?
So what inspired me to write was really just going through the experience as a now therapist, helping other people deal with and go through their own healing processes and trauma. I feel like it's important for us to process our pain, and writing for me was a way for me to process. It was a way for me to get it out. So I write poetry. I wrote, you know, the book, and it actually was one of the first plays that I directed as well. I turned the book into a play, and it was another way for me to just get the pain out, you know, and talk about it. I really wanted to encourage other people. So many of us go through different type of life painful experiences, and we hold all of that stuff in. And I just wanted to provide an example for people that you can overcome obstacles. You can overcome your pain. You can heal, and you can recover, you know, from things that you experience. So that's why I wrote the book. And one of the things that I want you know, others to gain from the book is tools. You know, I want others to be inspired and encouraged. And then there's a section in the book where I give some tips and tools from a clinical perspective of how you process and deal with pain if you've dealt with some type of traumatic experience. So I really hope that anyone who reads the book is encouraged, but also walks away feeling like they have some tangible steps that they can take if they are dealing with something that they have not yet processed from the past.
Thank you so very much, Ms. Berkeley. Question number 2, and this is for Sora Cass. What is the importance of Black literature to you? What is the importance of Black literature to you?
Oh, Black literature, I think it gives us an opportunity to experience worlds that we may never have had the opportunity. Especially I too grew up, my mom was a single mom, grew up in poverty, but with reading, it was almost like a field trip without having to go anywhere. So you get to have experiences and opportunities, and you get to learn. Like she said with her book, she's giving tips and tools on how to process trauma, but you also get to experience from her side what it was like to be a survivor. And that's something that I have not had to experience, but I can empathize with her once I read that. So literature is so important, especially for Black people, because one, we can see where we are in a point in time. It's like a permanent record of where we are, what we were feeling. And so it leaves an opportunity for people in the future to see what our culture was like, what we were doing and thinking.
Thank you so very much, Ms. Cass. Ms. Berkeley, same question. What is the importance of Black literature to you?
For me, the importance of Black literature is several things. One thing is empowerment. I think that Black literature empowers us. It shows our resilience. It shows our strength. It shows our ability to rise above so many things that try to weigh us down. And I also think, it also educates when we have to be our own voice, because if we, and I tell my clients this all the time, if you don't use your own voice, someone will create a voice for you. And so I believe it's important that we don't allow anyone else to create our voice, but that we educate based on what we know our experiences are and what our history is, and not allow our history and our strength and resilience to be erased.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ms. Berkeley. Now for the third and final question, Sora Cass. How and why are Black authors significant in today's society?
She had the perfect answer. It's about our voice. We have the opportunity to control the narrative. So often that the media and non-Black people in power, they depict Black people in certain negative aspects. Well, Black authors have the unique opportunity to help control that narrative. We can use our voice and share our stories and depict what is authentic to us and our culture. So I think that's why it's important.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ms. Cass. Ms. Berkeley, same question. How and why are Black authors significant in today's society?
I think we're significant in today's society because we are able to inspire. When you pick up a book and you look on the back of it or the front of it and you see a Black author, or at least for me, I can speak for myself. When I see a Black author, I get inspired, I get encouraged, because, I almost want to give them a high five on the book, like, go girl, and so I think it's just one of those things that we bring to the table, that inspiration to other people, that we can do great things. Like we can create our own destinies, and that we can accomplish so many things and inspire through writing.
I totally agree. Thank you so much, Ms. Berkeley. And now, the portion of the program that you all been waiting for. At this time, we will allow our authors to answer any questions from our audience. Audience members, feel free to drop your questions in the chat, or you can raise your hand, and our Arts and Letters Committee Chair, Sorora Joy Nicholas, or our chapter president, Soror Shanikia McCauley Spears, will acknowledge you accordingly. Madam President, do we have any questions in the chat for our authors this evening?
Yes, we do. We have one question so far, and it states, for Sora Berkeley, how did you restore your faith in God after your experience?
That's a really good question. I would say, honestly, I didn't have to restore my faith. My faith is what I leaned on. And so for me, it was really getting to the understanding why I went through what I went through. And I honestly didn't understand that until the first time someone else, until the first time I shared with someone else that I had been raped. I remember walking through the student union building at my university, and one of my girlfriends just came up to me and she just fell into my arms and she was sobbing and uncontrollable and is in the middle of the student union building. And I'm like, what's wrong? What's going on? And she was just like, I was raped last night. And so when she said that to me, it was almost as if God, the Holy Spirit, spoke to me and said, here is the why. You now can be a support to her and let her know, that you can walk with her through this, that she can get through this, and it's going to be her own process, her own time. And so I think for me, it was just leaning on what I had been taught for so many years. Now, don't get me wrong. I did question God, and God, why did this have to happen to me? And I blame myself. I talk about that in the book as well. I did go through those moments, but ultimately what was in me came out. What had been planted in me through my mom, my grandmother over several years, it eventually came out, and I just leaned on what I knew. And I also just recognized the purpose behind the pain that I had experienced, and really just focused on my trauma leading to triumph. And that is what I preach. That's what I teach. My therapy practice is focused on overcoming trauma, because I truly believe that your trauma can lead to triumph.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ms. Berkeley. Do we have any other questions in the chat for our authors this evening?
Yes. Another question was, it was concerning the names of the books. Soror Cass, can you repeat the name of, I know you said this was a sequel, so can you repeat the name of the first version, and then the sequel, and then the same for you, Soror Berkeley, the names of your books?
Okay. The first book is Labor of Love, and the second book is All That Matters.
And my first book is Case Closed, and I also have More Than a Conqueror. It's a 45-day devotional with 45 short devotions and 15 extended devotions.
Thank you so much. Another question is, and it'll be for both of you. So, Soror Berkeley, you can go first. What is the most difficult part of writing a book?
For me, it was organizing my thoughts. I was all over the place. The book that I wrote is not the book that was published. So I would definitely say make sure you get a good editor, someone that can help you bring structure. But for me, that was the most difficult.
I would say for me that as well, but also finding time to do it. If working a full-time job, it just, life happens and it just gets away from you. That's why it took me so long from 2005 to really the pandemic to finally finish. So finding time to do it, but also coming up with names is very difficult for me. I write fiction, so I'm trying to, you come up with a name and you're just like, oh, that's such and such a name. She's gonna think I'm talking about her. But I just tell my friends, look, I'm using your name. You'll be a character in my book.
Thank you, Soror Cass and Berkeley. Madam President, do we have any other questions in our chat?
Another question was, for Soror Berkeley. I know you stated that your it was not necessarily particular to your book directly, but you mentioned that they tied your rape kit to a suspect that was already in custody, and you stated that it kind of closed your case. What did you get did they close your case based on they had him in custody, or did your case get finalized? Did they actually process your case and go through with it and convict the person?
Good question. Yes, they did. He got an additional 25 years for my rape, on top of the years that he was already serving for another rape. So it did close my case completely out.
I don't see any other questions in the chat.
All right, thank you, Ms. Cass and Ms. Berkeley, and thank you, Soror President. Please note that you can purchase Soror Cass's and Soror Berkeley's books via the following platforms: Books A Million, Barnes & Noble, Amazon.com, morethancope.com, and thriftbooks.com. And I will give you a moment to jot those names down. All righty, and for our audience, author Cassandra Berkeley recently released mental health cards and would like to offer a free copy of her book, Case Closed, for anyone who ordered these cards tonight. That's right, for one night only. So if I were you, I'd scan that QR code on the bottom of your screens to ensure you receive this amazing deal. Or you can hit the link that Ms. Berkeley will place in the group chat right now. And I will give her a moment to do so. All right, that link should be visible to you. And now we will have a word from the president of the Ascension Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, Shanikia McCauley Spears. Soror President.
Well, I just want to say quickly, thank you all. Please give both of our authors, Soror Cass and Berkeley, a round of applause, everyone. And thank you so much for giving us those excerpts from your books. I'm going to be ordering both of them because I really want to see. You all have me on the edges of my seat. I'm listening and trying to say, what's next? So I will be definitely ordering to read the books. Again, we thank you. For all of the attendees for joining us tonight. We appreciate your support and we appreciate you getting on to listen. Of course, be looking for more information from Ascension Alumni Chapter. Also, we've dropped our feedback form. That's the second drop form link that you see in the chat. So make sure you please give us some feedback and let us know if you like it, love it, hate it. Be honest. We want to know because we want to continue to bring you programs and activities that's for our community. I'll leave it back to Ms. Treadway. Take us away.
Thank you so much, Soror President. Be sure to follow the Ascension Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated on all of your social media platforms to stay abreast of all program updates and or special announcements. Again, thank you. The Arts and Letters Committee would like to thank our dynamic guest authors, our president, Shanikia McCauley Spears, our Arts and Letters Committee Chair, Joy Nicholas, and we would like to personally thank each of you for your time this evening. We hope to see you all at our very next event. Have a wonderful evening and God bless.